So a year or two ago, when you were asked to start looking at tools, can you tell us a little bit about how that started and the approach that you took to analyzing and evaluating different products?
Sure. So we had a failed low-code pilot previously. We were, I think it was looking at like a K2 or something like that, some hybrid on-prem SaaS solution, and the project really didn't have any direction. It was it was a tool without a purpose, essentially, and so it never really went anywhere. And um, you know, we always wanted to revisit low code because it seemed like something we should do, something interesting that could potentially enable citizen development on campus. And then we kind of figured out it actually might be the best way forward to migrate these legacy ASP.NET web apps that we've still got hanging around. This is a collection of like, I don't know, 50 or 60 custom web applications that, I mean, most of them are just forms and workflow. And, they would generate a lot of tickets for change this workflow routing item, change this piece of text, change this permission item, this open close date on this form. And so we figured we probably had better find a tool that could accomplish those goals of transitioning that legacy code base to something better, but also do it in such a way that our end users, our power users, our sort of campus IT partners would be the lingo that we use at Davidson. It would be easy enough for them to use that they could then take ownership of these transition forms, maybe even make something of their own that they wanted to use without having to go through IT for permission. At the same time, we needed something that had the integration capabilities to allow us to pack as much integration punch into the tool as we could while also masking that complexity from the user. So we set out on this task of evaluating all the tools on the market, and I'm going to let Luke and Tessa chime in with what that search was like.
Frustrating. um, as a person who comes from a web development background, low code is like kind of goes against the grain for me. It's like I build stuff. I don't use things to build stuff. And the most frustrating part about all of this was all these like full low code solutions. So I think some of the finalists that we looked at were like Appian and Mindex, and Betty Blocks was another one.
Yeah, and the Microsoft Power Platform as well.
Power Platform. Google Apps, I think, was another one, which doesn't exist anymore. So the frustrating part was the end result of what you got. Not only was would like, even for me as a developer, it was hard for me to work in some of these applications. Like, Mindex said, you have to go through like 40 hours of training to become a basic novice Mindex user,
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah.
that. So not only were they difficult for me to understand, coming from a development background, but the end product was just, what you created was not very robust, and it took a long time to go from nothing to something. And where I'm sitting there thinking like I could develop something in twice the time in half the effort. Um, so I so we really were just thinking like, do any of these fit our Davidson use case? I mean, it's going to take so much time uh, to rewrite these simple web apps in these monoliths of software that didn't even have a good end result. And then I think, Tessa, that's when you said, why don't we look for things that are in the low code realm but aren't the best of breed for low code, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we had started kind of going down two paths. Like when we were looking for low code options, we were told to start with the Forrester and Gardner top sets. And that's where we did start. And we reached an end of our product search using those data sets. But back in the beginning, we'd also been tasked with completing a series of user interviews, people who were the primary owners for these web apps that JD mentioned that we were trying to replace. And it was through those interviews that we actually started to collect kind of a series of more user-centric requirements for what our low or no code solution looked like. So we got to the end of our original project. We weren't super thrilled with our final recommendation. And it was actually after JD told me to please stop looking at other things. Like, he had an all-day meeting and I ignored him. And we actually looked at more outside things, that we started finding kind of these like enterprise form solutions. And that's what we were looking at first. When I think Luke was the first person to find Kuali, which I misspelled for months. And then that quickly got us to, oh my gosh, not only is this a great product, but it fit our user stories and our use cases way better than any of the other things we had evaluated.
And I will say the two things, I don't know, I think we were just searching for form builders. I think it was through Google. But the two things that I think landed me on Kuali was first the web page, which said, you've tried Process Maker, you've tried Mindex, you've tried, and they all don't work. And I was like, yeah, we're right there. That's where we are. And then the other thing was the exposed documentation and well-written documentation, which allowed me to get, without even having to start a trial, to get a really robust sense and intricate understanding of what the platform was capable of.